Yeah.
Fucking imagine if I was like a goth kid. You know? Just like, I'd be the worst vampire kid.
What?
You know, like in high school when they were like, South Park had an episode of this. There were kids that thought they were vampires, so they wore the teeth and they dressed up like goths.
Oh, I remember
but
that.
But they were pussies, you know? Like they didn't have 10th of that. I should have been one of those kids, man. I knew one of those kids. I was friends with one of those kids, but I separated myself, just became a nerd. But I could have been that.
But then you could have, like, been really cool in Halloween.
You know, this is the irony of growing up as a nerd. Is that, like, I don't get that period where I look back and I'm like, oh, I was into such stupid shit. Because I was into the shit that I'm into now. I never changed. I don't have much of an arc. You go back, what was I doing? I was playing Smash Brothers.
And how did you feel about that?
It was a good game. Melee had come out. Brawl just came out, and I was liking Brawl quite a bit. And I was enjoying Mass Effect 1. It's a good time.
But you could have been one of the cool
I could have been a vampire kid. I was enjoying Mass Effect. Oh, we are streaming. Well, yeah. Okay. But yeah.
What, did you think I was lying?
I didn't know. You didn't tell me. Or I didn't hear you.
No, we're doing this thing.
I'm just saying, like we have arcs. A lot of us have arcs as human beings, you know. What was like something embarrassing you did in high school or were into? I feel like we have it. I feel like
if you're talking about that, absolutely.
Yeah.
There was.
Well, hit me with a big one. I'll hit you with one. Mine's not that bad though. But
I was one of the metal kids. Like, oh, Korn is awesome, and I still wear all black. I still prefer to wear black because now, like...
I think black is now a nerd color because you're hiding in the world.
I mean, like, I wear the black button-up shirts and they look nice. Yeah. So I do that. And the thing I did then is, like, I was starting to grow my hair out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And I dyed it black.
God.
So it was, like, long, curly hair, dyed black... And I wasn't the best at keeping the roots up. So it looked like shit.
Mm-hmm.
It looked fucking horrible.
It's awesome.
No, it's not.
So I think, early internet culture probably was the worst thing. I think we could agree on that. I was in the AVGN, though, so I wasn't completely ruined. But I think what was interesting, high school is where I developed my music taste. I think that's where a lot of us kind of start learning.
Right.
I'm not embarrassed by the first band that I was really into, but I think it's a weird one. And it's one that, like, I'm probably the only fucker in the world that can say this. Oingo Boingo was the first band that I was obsessed with. Like...
That is an interesting one.
In case you weren't aware, Danny Elfman, the composer, was the lead of the band.
Yes, I am aware.
Okay, so what drew me to it, and it was the reason I explored them, is I heard their song that was about pedophiles, where Danny Elfman is singing, I like little girls, they make me feel so good. And I was so like, what the fuck is that? So I had to explore the band. I had to know, how did Danny Elfman make that song? It turns out he's a good musician, but, like, I had to know how that guy did that. As well as Beetlejuice. How do you become an Oscar winner, but you start here?
By making that.
From there to here.
Yeah, that's...
Internet, you can have that. I'm sure at some point in my life that's going to be valuable to have that clip. And use it against me, and I'll have to explain it.
That's mildly terrifying.
Yeah.
Mildly, though.
My reputation's already fucked. You can't do me... I mean, I guess you can put me on one of those lists, but, you know, it'd be unearned. It would be a prank, but that's what you could do.
Just a prank, bro.
Just a prank, bro.
Yeah.
Why not?
Bro.
Yeah.
I feel that there was supposed to be a purpose to this, but now that's just...
I don't see the problem.
You've ruined it.
What have I ruined? You and your standards.
Yeah, you're right. Standards are horrible.
Speaking of standards, don't we have a topic for this episode?
We do. That's very funny that just kind of went into it like that.
It's almost like we're trying to sidestep a weird moment by getting into the thick of things.
Maybe. I mean, I'm not the guy who was singing about liking little girls. I mean, I'm just...
I didn't make the song. I was quoting the song by singing it. Okay? I was simply giving a taste for the audience what the song was. We could get a DMCA strike.
Oh, no!
Did I ruin the...
Oh, no!
The initials? I don't even remember. The Millennium Rights Activists.
Digital Millennium Copyright Act.
Yeah.
DMCA. There we go.
I was good.
Yeah.
The first time.
Yeah, the RIAA could come and yell
at us. The KKK is probably on its way.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
It's not good. We don't have Notch here to protect us. And that's a shame, but PewDiePie, maybe.
He might help.
I could get him.
He could help.
I know the Swedes. I feel like I could get him to do something.
Well, the funny thing is, one guy you said that wouldn't help, and the one guy said he would. They're both Swedes. They're both Swedes.
Here's the difference, though. One's a billionaire.
No.
And one is a YouTuber.
Millionaire.
Multi-millionaire that probably will be a billionaire off his racism. So there goes the hope. Political.
My God.
Hey, I didn't make the rules. I just comment on them.
Okay, so
the
topic,
the subject,
the topic at hand here. I should probably do the official intro so I can actually edit this thing later on.
Let's do it.
Yeah, where all that shit that just happened that could stay on the live version. Fuck that.
Oh, we're not letting the record. We're letting the one guy get that.
Well, the one guy is us at the moment.
Okay, more reason to bring all that in. Oh, God. Why not have that in a recorded audio format and ruin my life?
I don't see an issue with it.
I think it's the way to go.
I think it's perfect now that you mention it. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to be the reset button for September 26, 2017. And we have already ruined everything.
You're welcome.
Holy shit. That is a crazy way to start. I shouldn't
be allowed in front of a microphone. We have a topic to talk about to get us off this.
We do.
Yeah. What is that?
We are going to talk about the fun thing that I don't think Tanner and I, when we were doing Super Reset Brothers, ever really 100% tackled.
Viagra?
No, we haven't tackled that one either. But... Okay. This one's going to be microtransactions.
Oh, I've heard of those.
Have you heard of Viagra?
Now, I don't know what it is. I know you can buy them, and you get them for free with your medical. Anyway, so a microtransaction, setting up the scene for those at home that have never heard of it. It's like a transaction that is small, even though it could be $100. It's still a microtransaction.
I like how they consider that a microtransaction.
It still is. You could buy more than the game is worth, and it's a microtransaction. And you can do it over and over again. This is what's special about it. Is I can get one game for $60, or I could get one game for $60 and spend thousands of dollars if I feel like it.
You could.
I could. Now,
don't you feel great as a consumer to have that choice?
Before we get to the ethics of the conversation, why would I? What is it that games do that incentivize me to pay? What is it that is structurally into the design that makes me go, I should give some money? There's several ways, I believe. First, we got the tried and true loot box, which seems to be a fan favorite.
I think Blizzard really brought that to the forefront. Everybody's been running with it since.
Yep. Loot box, general idea is there's unlockables, usually skins or things that don't matter. Occasionally they change the game, and there's more on that later. But generally they are cosmetic, so they're unneeded. But you can't get what you want unless you get lucky and gamble away your life. Another way is to have digital currency.
Yes.
So usually how this works is there'll be two separate forms of currency. There'll be the one that you earn in-game, and then there'll be the one which you can earn in-game incredibly slowly unless you pay. Now, the reason they do this, from my impression of games, because I've played many of these free ones to kind of get an idea, is that by having a high amount of one currency, you feel like you need to spend that currency, but you're unable to unless you have this other currency that will allow you to usually build something,
right,
or allow something to exist so you can get rid of the other currency.
Right. They usually mix it up, or it's all one currency, but you earn so slowly that you're incentivized just go ahead and pull the trigger and buy.
Now, that's getting rarer, I feel. The two currency system seems to be the way it's going.
Well, the one currency system, do you know who was the biggest offender with that? At least that I've seen.
No.
2K.
For which games?
They're sports games.
Well, I know they're doing it now with the NBA game. But what have they done before that? That was a big offender.
That's the big one that they are just like destroying people with is the NBA
No,
series.
I'm pretty sure that's two currency. Or am I wrong?
I'd have to look into it, but I
feel
know that
that's
like
two.
I know that whenever I see sales are up, oh, check out the sales. You go in there and they're offering like ridiculous 2K currency sales.
No, you're right. I remember looking at the chart now, and it really only had one currency in it. Which, you know, I guess they figure that's an audience that they don't have to worry about.
You know, I mean, if the people in that area, because it's so small, if they're okay with it, I really can't fight for them because they're so small.
I feel like this is something to get to once we've explained the forms.
Okay,
because there's one final form, and that's gacha. And gachas are similar to loot boxes, although the game is not only built around it, but it's usually characters that are unlocked. It is something bigger than a skin. So if I'm going to play, and I'm going to list the best one for everyone, the Fire Emblem app game is a gacha game. And you effectively play way better if you get lucky. And you got a all 4-star character, ooh, and then you whip them out.
Yeah.
And it's something to be proud of. But the entire game's designed around that. Those games are almost always free when you get to it. And then they add all that on top.
And let's not forget the Final Fantasy mobile game.
Which one?
You would, I can't remember the title, but you would microtransaction your way into a random character that would have stats and stuff. And of course, people are looking for Cloud and other characters like that. But oftentimes you didn't get those characters. Pay again. What? 99 cents, whatever.
Since we're going into ethics now, that game was particularly bullshit because there was no game underneath it. If you recall, your characters never took damage. And all you did was wipe your finger across the screen. That's all you did. That was the entire gameplay. There was no, like, stats or anything. I mean, no, your characters did die. I'm wrong. But there was no strategy.
Right.
They would die at the time, and that's as much input as you had. It was just attack, gotta wait for the attack. Okay, now I attack. And that's it. Which made it one of the most horrible offenders. It also wasn't a free game. That was a $4 game.
Was it? Mm-hmm. Oh, man, I didn't recall that. That's awful.
As a Final Fantasy fan, I've been fucked in a lot of ways, but that one might be the most offensive.
That is absolutely absurd that they would do that.
So, first of all, do you have a problem with the concept of a microtransaction? And this is all personal ethics. This entire conversation, there is no way we're going to be able to say this is how things should be. It is a matter of where you consider the value to be lessened, or something is too much, or is it okay, and where is your personal line? But do you have a problem with the concept of the microtransaction in general?
That's a good question. In general, I'm not 100% certain I have an issue with it, because I do like the loot boxes when it comes to Overwatch. I like those. I don't really get upset about those. Loot boxes also appear in Heroes of the Storm, another Blizzard game. So I'm not against it, like, foundation-wise, I'm not against their existence. It's when things start tweaking and going a certain direction is when I get upset with them. I guess the big example I could give, and this is one of the things we were talking about a moment ago, it's kind of gacha. Because usually with the loot boxes, you get cosmetic things, right? Not that big of a deal. In Heroes of the Storm, that does become a problem. Because you can either pay money and get the character you want to play, or you can buy their loot box system, and maybe you'll get the character, maybe you won't.
To be fair, though, originally you only had to be able to buy them.
Right.
So they've now given you a possibly cheaper way.
Possibly. Now that's the gamble they're pulling you into. You start thinking, I'm going to spend less money if I do this. Are you? I don't know what the ratio is.
So personally, where I have my line, I have some controversial opinions, and I also have, as always, I got my hot takes. Generally speaking, I don't have as much problem with currency, especially if it's a one currency thing, if it is ignorable. Microtransactions should be the most ignorable thing imaginable. The game I think that does this the best is Grand Theft Auto 5. Because I don't remember that game has microtransactions until people remind me. Now, I'm barely playing the online, mainly play it for the single player, but the time I did play that multiplayer, I didn't know how to get to the microtransactions. So it didn't impact me because I couldn't even access it. I didn't remember how it was there. When you shove it in my face, it becomes a problem.
Right.
But I don't feel like it ruined the art because it kept it separate into its multiplayer mode. And it also was just a matter of getting things faster, and that is the only thing it did. I think Overwatch is bullshit. I think duplicates are the thing that take it over the edge. The number one thing I don't like, and this is true with gacha, and this is true with that, and this is why I'm like more okay with currencies. It's gambling. It's gambling that you don't get anything back. This is the genius of microtransactions that is horrific to me. It is you spending money for a possibility of nothing but a digital form of something that doesn't exist. Fucking talk to a casino owner. You think they would love to open a casino where they didn't have to pay you if you won? We've invented it, and you don't even have to leave the home. And there's no regulation whatsoever. Go nuts. A
lot of people do.
That's my problem with the loot boxes. It really does feel like it is exploitative, and that ruins the art for me.
Back to the point I was making with the characters. Yes, they will. That's kind of their advertising for it. You could possibly get this character that you want to play, and you could spend less, possibly. What are the chances of that happening when you consider everybody buying loot boxes? I think, just like at a casino, the odds are very much against you.
You know what's far worse than that, though? I'm going back to picking on Overwatch, a game that I like.
And limited time, I love both of these games, by the way.
Limited time events.
Oh, yes.
You want to talk about incentive to buy crazy. These skins are not only hard to get, but they're also available for a limited time only. And they go back in the Disney Vault, baby. You better pay up and see if you can make it. It's possible you could earn it through gameplay, but the rules are stacked against you. I don't know.
Definitely.
That feels bullshit to me.
Well, it is. I'm not going to disagree with you at all, because in terms of it, even after you get all of the in-game currency, like, you can buy skins for your characters if you want to, but not those.
Yep.
You can't buy those. It has to be specifically at that time, open it with a loot box, or you have to have the in-game currency in order to do it. And if you want the in-game currency, how do you have to earn it? By buying loot boxes.
What's the worst you ever had with loot? Not just loot boxes, with microtransactions. What's the worst you've paid? I've made it a personal goal of mine to never, ever buy a microtransaction, but I came close, and I'll tell you my story after. But I want to know you. What is the most money you've spent? What was it for? And why?
I haven't spent anything in Overwatch or Heroes of the Storm, so let me ask you a question before I answer that.
Yeah.
Do you consider buying packs on Hearthstone microtransactions?
I do. And the reason, because it is something you can earn in game, but you can pay to get more. Although for that game, it is also a card game, so I understand that. But it's in a digital format, which overrides it for me.
And if they ever shut the game down, it's not like I have anything to show for it.
You have nothing to show for it. I consider that fully a microtransaction.
Okay, so every new set with Hearthstone, I do spend $50.
$50 in microtransactions. And they say these games are free. I got a story. So I like Kingdom Hearts. I haven't even finished all of them, so I'm the last from the hardest core fan. I'm way more. Square owns me, not as much with that particular series.
Right.
But I do want to get caught up lore-wise before Kingdom Hearts 3. The cell phone game that currently exists, believe it or not, has plot. It has lore. Some of the most important lore is in this fucking cell phone game, Patrick. So, I can watch it on YouTube. It's available. I can easily do that. But I'm a gamer, and I want to see it firsthand.
Are you a pro gamer?
Sure. I make all the money from Kingdom Hearts. So, it's not a hard game. Most of it is actually a relevant difficulty. However, one of the aspects that kind of takes it over the edge is do you know how the game is played?
No, I know nothing about it.
It is a gacha game with certain moves. Basically, you have medals, and they are different ranks, but the medals can level up, but you can get better medals, which does more powerful moves, which allows you to beat stages faster.
Okay.
Okay? Now, it's not a good game. It's very repetitive. Intentionally so. You're doing the same environments over and over. It isn't until you get halfway through a 600 level thing that apparently any story starts at all. So it's a waste. They're purposely wasting your time, so you're playing it as much as possible. But the story that's there is apparently important. I can watch it on YouTube. They know I can watch it on YouTube, but I want to get it firsthand. And when I played, there was a limited time bonus that was fascinating. And this is what almost got me. There is one medal. There is one medal that is in a pack that you can get that will basically negate the entire challenge of the game except for endgame. Right? So if I get this medal, the game is a flyby, quick thing. I can just go through it, no effort, nothing. And I'm thinking, I don't want to pay microtransactions, but I could here because that might let me beat it. Here's the trick.
The filthy trick.
You are guaranteed it at 1 out of 5. If you bought all 5 of the same pack, you are guaranteed to have it within the 5.
Okay.
So it's random in there. The packs are $20.
Oh.
Now, I could spend $20 and maybe I'll get it on my first try. I earned the first one in-game currency. It took me about 11 hours of straight gameplay to get the first pack. But I did it. I completely earned the first one, and I didn't get her. So my brain says, $20, and maybe I could just do it, because I can't do 11 hours again. That's asking too much, and I'm getting so burned out. I just want to get through this thing so much quicker.
Right.
And if I spend, like, what is it, four for 20 each, so that would be $80. If I spend $80, then I'm guaranteed to get it. I can get through this thing, and then I stop myself and I realize something. I'm paying $80 for a game I don't like. That's
right.
$20 more than a full-priced game, and I'd be giving it to a cell phone game that I do not enjoy just for the privilege of being able to beat it.
Mm-hmm.
They almost had me.
They almost got you.
They almost got me. I had money at the time, and that's how they get you.
And that's the thing to remember, too. When you talk about microtransactions, I know in like the current console aspect, and even PC games, people get upset when it comes to that. But let's not forget who is king of that bullshit. The mobile market.
That's true.
They are the absolute kings.
Consoles are trying.
They're trying.
We're catching up.
They are trying so hard to get in on that. And just like...
I think they're getting there with that loot box idea, though.
The loot box idea is pretty awful. But also remember that a lot of games now are being designed in a way to exploit microtransactions. I think probably the most experimental one, and like people just like shot it in the face, was Dead Space 3. Because that was actually built in a way where they were just like...
That's true.
It's hard to get through, it's hard to deal with. Just buy something. It'll be easier.
It wasn't even that. The worst thing about Dead Space 3 is that in actuality, if you played normally, you would get all the items. You don't have to, you would just get it early. But it was pushed in your face. And I think that was more offensive. This is like the biggest problem with Shadow of War. I have no idea if it's exploitive. It's not out yet. But it's got 2 currencies, and I know what that means. Mm-hmm. It's also endgame content. I know what that means. Mm-hmm. And it also doesn't help that every time I pause the game, there is an ad waiting for me. One of my favorite examples of microtransactions. Are you familiar with the game Two Worlds 2?
I know it exists.
So, 7 years after its release, they patched it to include microtransactions.
Yeah, because that's the ticket.
Yeah, baby.
Everybody's gonna show up to pay more money to play Two Worlds 2.
I think what the scariest thing about this, and I get the argument, but I'm gonna slap it in the face. I've heard a lot of defense for this kind of shit. Here's the thing.
Like post-release microtransaction add-ons?
No, not for that. Just microtransactions in general.
Sure.
Usually the argument I hear, especially in games that cost money, because free-to-play, you get what you pay for. I get it. There's profit to be made. They got to do what they got to do. I'm more forgiving of that, but that doesn't mean you can't do a better job. Everyone's pointing at Warframe as the best free-to-play game because you really don't have to spend money, but they continually update it and they make a profit. So, like, that's out of goodwill, but that rarely happens. Usually, I'm seeing a lot more full-priced games that have microtransactions. Overwatch, I paid $60 on. You cannot tell me Blizzard didn't make money without microtransactions on that release. So the two arguments I hear, one of them is slightly justifiable, but one is the game ain't free and they need more profit. Okay, that's one. And I'm like,
no, they don't.
Overwatch, I used to defend it. And I was like, we're getting maps over time. We're getting new shorts. We're getting a community. So I understand where the money can go to. Okay? This was what Destiny's argument would have been if it wasn't for the fact you had to pay for every expansion.
Right.
But, like, you know, $60 is not a lot of money nowadays. We kept the price the same for a long time while inflation went up and they're not making profits. My brain has a really bullshit answer, which is maybe we should just make games cheaper. And I know that's like an offensive thing to say nowadays, that the AAA market should maybe cut some corners, but like, I don't know, man. I feel like we're losing that gap between it seems like AAA games are getting worse and indie games are getting better. It seems like I can play an indie game that has visuals that are... I mean, did you play Hellblade? Or at least, like, look at footage of Hellblade?
No.
It's a pretty game. That game is probably better looking than Uncharted in some ways. And it's $30. It's a little more expensive, but it's 30. And it's... You can't argue production quality didn't, like, hit.
Right.
I feel like, you know, it didn't need microtransactions. It was just a little story. But it sold. It did well. Graphics feel like diminishing returns, and if graphics are what we're paying for, is that really worth it now? I mean, fuck's sakes, the Switch is out. We don't care about graphics as much, but then what is the AAA market going to? And if it's multiplayer and maps, you have an argument, but Splatoon exists. Splatoon's a one-time buy, and they continue to update it.
Also, the idea that AAA isn't making enough profit is just absurd. The AAA market, because you look at the games that are coming out, sure, the budgets are insane, but then how many millions of copies do you hear that they sell when it comes to these games? Multi-platform. And, you know, basically take the number that they've sold, times it by 60, unless it's over a long period of time. That's what they've gotten. They're not hurting.
I understand the idea that a business's primary goal should be profit, but from a gamer standpoint, that's not my business. My business should be satisfaction from a product.
Exactly.
And I feel like when your microtransactions deliberately get in the way of said product and become unavoidable, then we have a problem. It's one thing to use it as a tip, but a lot of the times it's not a tip. A lot of the time the game is structured around it. And sometimes it ruins games. We have a multiplayer focus in console games now, and I don't think it's accidental. We have multiplayer because it's a lot easier to charge for that.
Yeah.
You know, and now what's the trend that you see? These half MMOs. Not MMOs, the half. It's like we give you most of the way, but you feel a lot easier about buying a microtransaction with any multiplayer element that's in there rather than a single player game. And I feel like that is the reason those games are being made.
When you say half MMO, or would you also throw Destiny in there?
Yeah. That is one of the games I was thinking of at the time.
The reason why I say it is because I was about to agree with you and everything, and like Shadow Eddie's going to get pissed at me again.
I like Destiny's a good game. This is a separate conversation of quality of game, and also I don't think Destiny does it particularly horribly. I think Destiny 2 has handled it pretty well.
I don't think the original Destiny does it particularly well either.
Well, the original Destiny didn't have any. And then they added it later, and it was just dances.
Right. But they said that it's going to be an MMO, is what they said. It's going to be an MMO FPS.
This is a separate conversation. I don't consider Destiny to be an MMO. However, I do consider it to have a very strong online infrastructure. It's a good game. I'm not gonna... Taken King made it good. I really like what the expansion did, and Destiny 2 has fixed a lot of the problems. That's a separate conversation, but I do think Destiny has merit. It's from the guy that didn't play any of the expansions.
No. Doesn't matter.
No,
the structure is what happened with
that.
The
structure entirely changed for the game. Is it an MMO? No, but what it is a satisfying game.
They had the DLC structure, the microtransaction structure, everything on there, but they structured it MMO-wise, where if you didn't keep buying, you were left behind. That's exactly what they did.
In terms of money, yeah, but I would argue it's just another way of doing it's another way of paying for patches. It's one bigger patch that comes out in a year, and you pay for the privilege of having the full patch.
Right. I'm just saying that's not truly 100% microtransaction, but I didn't like that pricing deal either.
Oh, I thought you were well...
No, I hated that pricing. I thought that was incredibly unfair.
I feel like the expansions were worth enough in the price, in the value of the product, that it was okay. Because they weren't full price. They were $30. And I play 14, and that's like $12 to $15, depending on what form I get it, a month. And I'd say a patch is less content than an expansion for what Destiny does. So I feel like value-wise, it's fair.
Okay.
So I don't agree.
Okay.
And I'm not the biggest fan of Destiny, but I do think Destiny's microtransactions are okay. Because they really don't get in the way of gameplay. They are cosmetic. Which is a problem when your game is centered around it. If you view cosmetics like I do in 14, that's horrific. Because 14, the end game is glamour. It is making yourself look as cool and weird as possible. So if you feel that way for Destiny, I really do feel sorry for you that they've done that. But if you don't care, and you're entirely focused on gameplay,
yeah, then
it's fine.
You're fine. Now, otherwise, Destiny 2, from everything I've heard, if you are one of those people, you're going to be very upset.
For which?
For Destiny 2.
No, I mean for the cosmetic?
For the cosmetics, yes.
Okay, then
you are going to be incredibly upset because they've actually hit a lot of that behind microtransactions.
Yeah, and that's a shame. Well, it's shading. It's coloring.
Okay.
Not the actual outfits. And,
okay.
Which you can still make your argument, that's personal preference. I personally don't think it's a problem. But I could see someone having that problem.
Someone could, yeah.
And, my answer to that would be I think it's a better system than how Overwatch does it. Because that's the actual outfit. And this is just a shader.
True.
So,
we've already pointed out the reason why Overwatch is bullshit when it comes to that.
Well, I'm just comparing it as a shooter.
Yeah.
I feel like that is more offensive in terms of that. I've turned a lot of my opinion around Destiny. I see its quality. Even if I'm still not gonna play it that much, or I couldn't say I'm its biggest fan, but I get it. I play enough of it to get it. Yeah.
So, the one thing that I was going to bring up, and we talked about this earlier. So, there was someone who told us this was going to happen.
Oh yeah, Jim Sterling.
He told us this was going to happen.
He has. He warned us pretty heavily. And he's still complaining about things that I don't have a problem with, but he's also pointed out how the skew is why I don't have a problem with it. Because we let small things go, and then smalls just stand on top of each other. And now we're really okay with some bullshit stuff that we didn't used to be okay with. And he's right. Like, it used to be, microtransaction in my $60 game, never. But then we found ways to justify it. And it was, we're going to get maps out of this.
Or it's just cosmetic, which was the big thing with Overwatch. That game came out, everyone praised it. Me too.
Yeah.
Me included. I said it's a fantastic game, I love you, Blizzard, and then I hugged them for hours. Jim Sterling, however, crapped on the game because of that. He said, this is bullshit, this is not fair.
Yeah. And
basically people were saying, not listening to you, Jim, we love the game too much. You're just complaining because that's your job. And then it got worse.
I think if there's two things in the world that's going to ruin all of video gaming, it's brands and fandom. Because when you have those two things, we can't have rational conversations. And I'm just as guilty.
I'm completely guilty.
Let me tell you this. The fucking new Nier comes out, and it's filled with microtransactions. I'm going to cry. But I'm going to justify it later down the road if the game is... Look, I don't think it could ever work, but I will find a way to justify it. Please don't do that, Square. You've already ruined my life. In so many ways. Such a love-hate relationship I have with that company.
I would be the same way.
I'm still shocked 15 doesn't, but I know it's coming. Because they're having that multiplayer that's coming out for it. And I just fucking know what that means.
Well, keep in mind, this is another new black when it comes to the industry, too. Like you were talking about with Two Worlds 2.
Yeah.
Now, publishers really like to go back and just add microtransaction systems into their games. One game in particular I can think of that became a giant mess because of it, Metal Gear Solid 5.
Oh, now it did have them at the beginning, but what it did that was
Not
special.
Like this.
What it did that was special is that Konami changed the rates of getting the item so that it would be slower and it would be worse. And it also had the chance of invasion and insurance. Remember when you could buy insurance? So that if a player goes into your base and steals your shit, you'll be covered. You have to buy insurance for that.
God. You have to buy insurance for your fucking video game.
Or you do what I do. If you ever, I'm never gonna play it again. But if I did, I'd play it offline.
No.
Without the day one patch, unfortunately. So it's gonna play like shit in a lot of ways. But it's the only way I could see myself playing it.
It's absurd, but I promise you that's what's going to start happening.
That's another one of those games that I really feel like was a game that was designed around its microtransaction. I don't blame Kojima for this. I really feel like they told him what he was doing, and he found the way to make it work the best he could. That's how I view that game. I cannot buy that it's from the same guy that made Metal Gear Solid 3, like in terms of design and functionality. And he made a 10 out of a 3, and now he ended up with a 6. But that's what he did, because the core gameplay is phenomenal. So he did the best he could. But
and I don't think that he did that either, and that makes sense, because why else would they go after the fact and tweak the system?
Yeah.
He made it in a way that it was okay for the most part. Tolerable. And that's what I was saying. They went back and they introduced a completely new microtransaction system that just fucked the game sideways.
Are you excited for Metal Gear Survive?
No.
Why not?
No.
Why not?
Metal Gear's dead.
What do you mean? Survive's coming out.
Hmm.
So I'm excited. It's got robots and zombies.
Oh my.
And microtransactions. It's going to be great. When I think about my memories with Metal Gear, I thought, gee, it's zombies and nameless avatar characters. That's what I think of when I think of Metal Gear. My player avatar.
Of course.
You know. Kill me.
So, that's going to be the unfortunate future of games.
What do you mean future? We're here. This is where we are.
They're just starting to fire up the engine. Give them a chance.
No, they're not.
They can make it worse.
We're in it. I think what I'm hoping, but because some games are doing this, is that they're going to release a good game and then fuck it up later. And then make a new mode that... Final Fantasy 15 is a game that I have a lot of issues with, but nothing that really ruins the game. And to be fair, they have been fixing it, and by the time this year is done, might even be a solid 9 out of 10, because they keep adding so much free content to make it better. And the DLC really is good. It is becoming a better game. But that multiplayer, I know that shit's microtransaction filled, slow as shit, not good at all.
Yeah.
But that's why it's being made. I guarantee it. And guess who's going to play it? This fucking idiot.
For whatever reason.
Maybe this is why I like 14 so much. It doesn't have... It has some buyable outfits. A couple.
So does World of Warcraft.
But my monthly fee, I know where the money goes... But I know what I'm paying for, and I get the product that I love every time I get content for it. And that is a structured thing in a way. I used to have this real hatred for MMOs, and this is why I never wanted to touch Warcraft, because of that money. I was always like, a monthly fee for a video game? Are you disgusting? That's gross. I really do see the benefits now. Like,
yeah.
and it's not servers that I think is what's so impressive. It's the way the content continues to churn and come out, to reinvigorate itself, to continue to make you play.
Right.
And, you know...
Not to go off the deeping with this one too much, because it's not really part of the topic, but still, it works with what you're saying there. So, have you ever really tried any free-to-play MMORPGs?
A couple, but I've never really played long enough for that to be even an aspect.
It becomes a humongous problem.
I can imagine.
One, there really isn't enough content coming out, and when it is, they want to beat the war drums and be like, hey, there's shit coming out you didn't know about because you've been gone for 5 months, you gave up, come back, try it again. And along with that, there's also the possibility of like pay structure, even though it's free to play, and they actually go back in the game and start tweaking things. The higher up you get and the more you play, the more difficult it becomes, the more impossible the game gets to get you to pay.
So the God of 14, Yoshi P, has made it clear he is only wanting to do a monthly fee, because he feels like the game design is built around it and he will never change it, and that is the one thing he's kept his foot on the ground to do.
Good.
And it's thank God, because if it was any other way, I don't think I could play that game anymore. But, you know, it really is like, I feel good where my money goes. I don't pay every month. There's a lot of months I miss out, actually, because I feel like I get my content, and once I hit raid, I don't care. So I'm good, but I feel good about where the money goes. And microtransactions never feel good. I have never bought a microtransaction that I felt happy about paying. And this is where my biggest problem lies with the whole concept. Have you ever, like, bought a microtransaction and said, that was a good idea? I feel dirty after every... I mean, granted, I don't buy them, but I've never met someone that was, like, happy. Even when I'm using in-game currency, I still feel dirty. Like, just giving a little to the system.
I have to admit, with Hearthstone, I don't feel that bad. But
now,
that's because I'm a card game junkie.
That's an adaptation, though. So you're familiar with where, like,
Correct.
You have a basis
It's the same
for
structure as any other collectible card game. Same structure.
But what frustrates me about that game particularly is that if I play it online, I'll never do well because everyone else has cards because they've been buying over time. And
right, and that's
I jump in.
That's the incentive to get you to buy.
Yeah, but that's an incentive that is a high amount of money to even play a game. And I don't feel that's right. I don't feel that's fair. I understand the appeal, but that is why I would never feel good buying a deck of cards. I have lied. That is a game I've played with a microtransaction, was Hearthstone. But I didn't feel that good after doing it. And I didn't spend that much money. But it was enough to know that I didn't want to go down that road ever again. And so, you know, fuck them.
So the future microtransactions...
They're going to get worse.
We know that Shadow of War is going to be a mess, but can you wait for when the game's been out about 4 months and they go back and restructure the system to make it even worse? Are you excited for that?
I'm not. Already in its initial version, I see the two currencies. I know what that means. I'm not... I mean, it doesn't help I didn't like Shadow of Mordor that much. I thought the Nemesis system was amazing. I'm not going to have a game exploit me for that. Especially since I'm not a fan of, like, Assassin's Creed. Why the fuck are Assassin's Creed games microtransactions? Those are single-player games.
I don't get it.
But they have them. This is where we're going. Heaven forbid we have a game that you could just complete. Fucking... I want you to imagine if a different company owned Metroid with microtransactions. What would that be? Where you could, like, buy items... and you could get them early.
Oh, holy fuck.
Woo!
Don't say that too loudly, because...
Nintendo doesn't do microtransactions.
Yet.
That's true. They do season passes. But I think they also know that would ruin the integrity of the design. And Nintendo is one thing that they do. It's design. That is what they do to their core. Is that they keep their designs pure. And I don't even think they let them ever become that modern. The closest we're getting is... Splatoon, and even that is still its own weird this is how we structure it. All the maps on Splatoon 2 are probably data mineable. They're probably already there, but they're just unlocking over time because that's the Nintendo way. That's their take on it. If Splatoon had a single microtransaction, I'd feel far lesser about it, but I don't.
I don't think it does. I mean, I don't have 2. I have 1, and there was nothing like that there.
2 doesn't. But
Good.
if it did, I would fucking look at it and be like, what a joke.
But that's what I'm saying. Now that you know, that's becoming a thing in the industry, and Nintendo has a system that is a hot hit at the moment. The unfortunate truth is they could add that in the future. Imagine Mario Odyssey with microtransactions.
I just don't see them ruining their design, because that is what that company is built on. It's not like Sony or Microsoft that are like these megacorps. Nintendo literally has a handful of philosophies. This is why Miiverse was even invented, is because they fucking believe in play and design and weirdness. And they said, we could take it from these other sources, but let's put it here with a tablet and then see if we can have our own unique... That's how I view them. So I don't think they will. I don't have a problem with online passes. Or no, what is it? Season passes.
Season passes.
I don't have a problem with that because I think DLC is not inherently bad. DLC totally depends on the game. It could just be an expansion in a smaller form. So I feel like it's just a pre-order for a lot of content. And I don't see that as a problem. Microtransactions, though, can actively ruin your game if you let it happen.
I agree. I don't see Nintendo doing anything like that. I don't think it's even possible for them to conceive it. Conceive the very idea. But it would just be horrifying and probably the end of an era if they were to do that. Because that means at that point, every damn body's doing it.
I think
you can't get away from it.
The smartest thing you do is you have your popular franchise on the... This is the Square method. And I think it's the smart one in general. You release great games on the console, and you make a shit ton of terrible ones on the cell phone, and you put a million microtransactions there, out of the way. There was something that they said that really spoke to me, which is 15 is the brand. We need that game to be wonderful because that is our brand that we're banking on it. And then these games over here is our income. We'll take the loss for the brand if we can have the income. That's why we'll spend 11 years of marketing, not of the game, because God, that game was rushed. But they'll pretend it was being worked on for 11 years. Oh, I fucking hate you, Square.
I never bought that they had been working on that game that entire time.
I still can't believe that my ultimate takeaway when I finished that game is, man, this was rushed. And you can tell. You can easily tell it's a rushed game. And you can especially tell now that they're fixing it. And this games as a service free cutscene updates. And this DLC is very important to explaining the plot. I mean, look, I'm one of its biggest offenders, but man, it wasn't done. That needed to be put in the oven, which is kind of heartbreaking when you consider how long I've been waiting on it.
At least it wasn't riddled with microtransactions.
It might. We'll see.
That's what I'm saying.
We'll see.
They might jump into the future.
In a separate mode.
In the future. They'll be like, man, this is the future. We need to put a microtransaction system in there.
I guess I just don't have a problem with it if you're going to go the GTA Online method. You separate it. You say, oh, and here's something on the side you'll never touch but has microtransactions. Like, remember Far Cry 3?
I was going to go back to GTA because, just like you were saying, I didn't see these microtransactions.
How much of online did you play?
Not much.
There you go.
Yeah, that's got to be the reason why, because I know they're there. I hear all the time, like, GTA 5 is, like, one of the highest grossing games. I'm like, what?
Oh, you know, it's not highest grossing, it's highest selling.
Well, it's also a high grossing game.
Oh, no. I'm just laughing on the fact that it is now officially, other than Tetris, the game that has sold the most copies in video game history. So when you add up the money of microtransaction, that number must be a fucking doozy, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it absolutely is. But that's what I hear. People say, oh, it's a high grossing game. I'm just like, but how besides sales? Microtransactions online. And I'm just like, where? What microtransactions?
There's this little part of me in the back of my head that's looking at Red Dead Redemption and thinking, maybe this is online only. Maybe this is a multiplayer only game. Because I'm still
waiting. I hope they wouldn't fuck up the new Red Dead that way. That would be awful.
I mean, GTA Online is successful and liked, and I mean, I never got my GTA 5 DLC that I wanted, with the characters returning and story progressing, you know. And I love that game. I think it's a phenomenal game. But Red Dead, I'm looking at it and I'm like, let's see how this goes. If you want to be the sequel to one of the greatest games of all time and actually do it justice, that'll be amazing. Or you could take this other method. I can see it now. Instead of heist, well, actually, you could still have heist. You'll be a group of outlaws, rob banks, fucking kill me.
Should it be called Red Dead Transaction?
Oh, the only redemption in this is going to be the fact... it's going to be the fact that they're going to make so much fucking money off of it.
Oh, of course.
Oh, God.
They could buy a small country with what they've done with GTA 5. Why not?
I think Red Dead Redemption would have been a better game if you could have bought enough microtransactions to revive the character and gotten a happy ending. It's like, do you want him to die in the story? Pay $20 if you want him to live.
God, don't give him ideas.
Final Fantasy VII, when we get that remake, it's going to be like, would you like Aeris to live? $15 will change the entire plot. But you gotta spend $15 every 3 hours.
Oh,
that's the trick. Otherwise, she'll die from a heart attack.
Oh my!
You gotta like pay to keep her alive. It's a metaphor.
You're paying her health care.
Exactly. It's a metaphor for healthcare in video game form, and it's actually art in the money that you spend.
Oh my God!
Making it powerful.
Okay, I think we've about had our discussion, and that's just...
Yeah.
Wow! Okay. Good times. We're going to go ahead and end it on that one. So, once again, that's been the reset button for September 26th, and we're knocking things over now. Super Mario Bros. The Super Christmas Adventure.
Audio people don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And the video people aren't watching. So it's like you got a double problem there.
I've got all the problems. But you're going to have a problem too when Red Dead Transaction comes out.
And don't forget to pre-order, like, and subscribe.
Oh yeah, the pre-orders.
Video games.
Yeah, don't forget to pre-order our podcast.
I can't wait till Super Smash Brothers. You have to microtransaction your stock.
Okay, we're done. That's horrible.